Hello, Mike here from Mike Turpey Art and Bagpipes. I'm going to be starting the watercolour fairly soon, so I'm going to show you some of the techniques and how to get that going. And the first stage in doing watercolour is to stretch your paper. So I've got a piece of watercolour paper here, and yeah, this is special watercolour paper, and the first thing you've got to do is to check that you've got it the right side up. Now I've divided this into four from a big sheet of watercolour paper, and down the bottom here I have got Saunders Waterford, which is the name, the branding of the particular watercolour paper, and it's got a kind of tooth here on the front, and on the reverse it's not quite as good for painting on, so make sure you've got it the right way up first of all. So I'm going to take you through the stages. You'll have to excuse me because you'll probably be seeing my head down a bit while I'm working on the flat here, so I'm just going to alter the angle that the camera is seeing just now. So we'll do that first of all. It's quite snowy today outside, so we'll just angle you down a bit here. Here we go. And hopefully that's going to stay there. Right. So the equipment I have got here is my board and my watercolour paper, the right way up of course. And what I've done beforehand is I've marked on the board little pencil marks so that I can position it so that it's going to be in the right position for when I start to paint. And of course with watercolour, you're going to be on the flat. You're not actually going to be like you're doing an oil painting where it's vertical. And the first stage, first of all, is to put the watercolour paper into water to stretch it. So we're going to put it in this bath of water here. And you immerse it in the water. Make sure it's completely covered in water. I've just used one of these big plastic boxes that you can get out of most homeware stores. So just make sure it's absolutely covered. And then I'm going to get ready to paste with gum strips. So got the watercolour paper, take it out of the water bath, position it on the board here. It's going to be quite tacky, quite difficult to move around now, so it's good if you've got these little pencil marks. And then the next thing you're going to do is your gum strip, which is already cut and measured. So I'm going to coat, we'll do it so you can see it better, coat the gum strip with water here, with just a household paintbrush, as you can see me doing there. You've got to work fairly quickly when you're doing this so that it's smooth. And then down we go, down the bottom first of all. Smooth it down. Do the next one. There's this bit here. Same thing. Work fairly quickly. So I hope you're all safe during this lockdown period, and this is ideal sort of activity. I find it's quite a relaxing activity to get stuck into watercolour. So paste that down. So also, here we go. And make sure, any bumps or things, you want to try and flatten them out as much as you can. Pull this up a wee bit, it's getting a wee bit of an air gap here, but that does happen as you're stretching paper. That's that one and that one. The next side, same thing. Let's coat it with the water. There you go. There we go. It tends to curl a bit, so it's can be a wee bit awkward, but that's that bit there. Not too far in, so you give yourself plenty of space. and try and get it as straight as you can. And then final bit here, paintbrush into the water, and on we go here once more. Coat it, gum strip down, make sure it's as straight as you can. Okay, and over any wee air gaps if you can, flatten them out. But don't wrinkle the paper. Don't wrinkle it. You will get these little bubbles, but they will disappear as the paper begins to stretch. And finally, it's always a good thing here to get some drawing pins, and just to put a drawing pin into each corner. 1, 2, 3, oh, and 4. Go. Push it in. There we go. So that is your board with your watercolour paper to be stretched, so it's nice and smooth. When you start applying watercolour, you see, it's wet and damp, and then, you know, you don't want midway through a picture to be having it wrinkling and bubbling up and stuff like that. So I'm just going to angle us back again. Take us back up again. Right, now, just speak to you a little bit about, we're a wee bit uneven. We'll just angle you back a wee bit. There we go. There we are. So, speak to you a little bit about watercolour materials. And first of all, your brushes. And these are kind of what we call Prolene, P-R-O-L-E-N-E. And these are kind of like sable. Sable is very expensive. It's a very fine hair. And this is what I like to use for doing watercolour. So that's my brushes. And here is the paint box. Here. This is my little watercolour paint box here. Okay. And it's got a couple of really good mixing pans here, which I really quite like, because it's a good surface to mix on. Some of the really shiny plastic mixing palettes are not as good as this, so I've got all my range of watercolours in little blocks in here, and this is a good portable one for taking around, but you can get different types. There's one here which has not hardly been used here, and I've taken one of the blocks out, but it's got a very tiny brush, this little brush here, in its little container, little metal container, and there it is. It's a really good portable arrangement there. Pop that back in. And my watercolour paints. So I use the little blocks of paint, but I also use these. Like, I've got a range of tubes of paint. I've just got this one here, sepia, which is a favourite of mine, and Davies Grey, which is quite a favourite one as well, that I quite like to use a fair bit. And the primary colours, of course, like yellow, blue, and red. I like this cerulean. It's a really nice, nice blue, cerulean blue. All right. So I'm going to show you finally this here, which is a little watercolour sponge for blending. And I just love this wee sponge here. It's a natural sponge, and you can use this to mix the watercolour paint so that you don't see the marks of the paintbrush and so on. But I'll tell you a bit more about that as we move on. So this time next week, I'm hoping to show you the first stage of doing the watercolour. And as you can see, the watercolour paper is beginning to stretch on this board here. And I'll leave you just now. So this is me starting on how to paint a watercolour, and I'm going to be using as my subject the area around about during this time. Difficult to get out too much, especially in the snow, but I've got some really nice subjects I'm looking forward to showing you how to go about painting. Okay, so stay safe, and thanks for joining me again, and see you soon next demo. Thank you, bye.